Hey guys, welcome back to another video and another predictions and breakdown. We have Gilbert Burns versus Sean Brady fight night predictions. In this video, I will be predicting every single fight on the card and giving you all my predictions for all of the best moments on this card. So let's kick it off with the first fight of Zygimantas Ramaska versus Nathan Fletcher. So both these guys new into the UFC. They were supposed to fight in the Jared Cannonier versus KO Borrello fight night, but then Fletcher pulled up with a medical issue. So that fight was actually already pretty much short notice onto that fight card. So it's actually better that we do get it on this one. So they have a bit more of a training camp and they both know that they're fighting each other to, obviously find their read, strengths, weaknesses, blah, blah, blah. But when we look at them individually, Ramaska is probably the better striker here. He's longer. He's got very good movement on the feet. He's pretty quick and he's got a very nice check left hook as well. But that being said, Ramaska on the feet, as good as he is, the ground game is a serious issue for him. Yes, he's 4-0 with submissions. He's not terrible offensively, but defensively, when he is on his back, he's not good. He has very poor awareness in terms of making sure that he can maintain his guard. On the regional scene, many fights that he's had, his guard gets passed and people can easily control him, inside control. And that's an issue with Ramaska being a longer fighter. Once his legs are passed, it just makes it so much harder for him to get back up. So that's where it is a bit of a struggle for Ramaska, and that's emphasized by the point of Nathan Fletcher and how good he is with his submissions. He can get submissions off his back, get submissions on top, pretty much any position. But worst of all is that his ground transitions are the best part of his game. He transitions seamlessly through, position to position on the ground, which is where Ramaska is at his weakest. Now, I would give Ramaska the advantage on the feet overall. Obviously better with his finishes, 5-1 compared to 1-1, and he's just a bit cleaner with his striking. But if we give this 15 minutes, I am very confident Nathan Fletcher is going to be able to get this to the ground. He is going to out-transition Ramaska, and he is going to be able to find that submission finish win in this one to get the first win of his UFC career. Moving up the card to Andrade Petroski versus Dylan Budka. Now, it might be Budka, I don't know, it's one of them. But whatever his surname is, I don't think this is looking good for him, to be honest. The issue is, especially, which is blatantly obvious, is the experience difference here. Petroski, a lot more experience. He's fought fighters like Michel Pereira. He's fought Malkoun, obviously got knocked out by his hip, but Petroski's fought the better opposition, right? And Petroski, he has a higher striking output overall, and that's where the difference is really going to be made in this fight, because both of them are very good on the ground. They're both very good. I mean, Petroski is very good in terms of his transitions on the ground, making sure that he can use his strength to then find those submission opportunities. And then we look at Budka. He has very good takedowns. He's very good with his double leg takedowns, and he's good at lacing the legs up, kind of like Khabib style. He's been very good at doing that. But the issue is the higher output and the experience from Petroski, I think, is just going to be able to get this one done, because Budka just doesn't look that great on the feet. And Petroski, with that higher output, along with that experience in combination and cancelling Budka out on the ground, it's Petroski's fight to win here. And not to mention any of that stylistically, Budka looked like shit on the scales. He looked terrible. Definitely some form of weight cut issue there. I believe he missed weight and he just looked like he was about to collapse on the scales. So I am pretty confident. I was going to say Petroski was going to take this by a fairly decisive decision, but after seeing that weight cut, I have got Petroski taking this by a KO TKO finish to get back on top of his game and, get a bit of that hype back that he originally had. Moving up the card, Vanessa Demopoulos versus Jaqueline Amorim. So Jaqueline Amorim, I think just like Petroski, is going to do a very good job of nullifying the only good part of the game that the opposition has. And I think with Vanessa Demopoulos, she has been able to do so well in the UFC as she's done because of her ground game and aggression. Because look at that reach disadvantage she has, almost 10 inches of difference when it comes to that reach, which Demopoulos is going to have to make up. But overall, I will say with the aggression, Demopoulos does do a good job of being able to cut off that reach advantage, but the issue is she overextends. She definitely overextends when she fights, and against fighters like Amorim, who has very, very good transitions when it comes to, you know, getting in the clinch and then getting the fight to the ground, that's not the type of fighter that if you're Vanessa, you want to be overextending against. Amorim, she's very good with her submissions. She's got very good single leg takedowns. And I mean, you look at her fight against Corey McKenna. If you haven't watched that, definitely give it a watch, because the beautiful transitions within that fight to just snatch up the arm and almost literally take it home with her. She is very dangerous on the ground. Now, can she submit Vanessa Demopoulos? That's another story, because Vanessa Demopoulos is pretty gritty. Her arms are obviously short, so it's kind of harder to get a hold of and really get that leverage there. So Amorim could struggle with that. But I will say that on the feet, I think that she will be able to do a good enough job of nullifying the aggression, because she does actually circle out pretty well. She is like fairly defensively sound with her movement, but she doesn't move her head much at all. So that's a bit of an issue. If Demopoulos can aggressively pressure forward, but then not overextend and just keep a good range, but not so far as much as so Amorim can obviously get the jab through. That's Demopoulos' key to victory here, because I highly doubt she's going to be able to submit Amorim. I don't think either of these girls are going to be able to submit each other unless one of them is severely hurt, which I don't think is going to happen. Now, Amorim, if she can get Demopoulos on the back foot, then that's going to be an issue for Demopoulos. Now, that's where Amorim really needs to utilize the confidence, threaten with the takedowns, so then she can pressure forward, get some strikes off, and really make sure that she level changes. And if she does that, she will be great, because I mean, overall, Amorim has only lost to Sam Hughes in the UFC so far, which I think was a little bit of bullshit, to be honest, because the submission defense from Hughes was more so just grabbing the glove, and she was just doing it a little bit too much in that fight. So yeah, aside from that blemish, Amorim has been pretty much perfect in the UFC so far. Now, Amorim, if she gets off on the feet, Demopoulos, very durable. Don't see her knocking Demopoulos out. But I do think that she is just going to be able to do a very good job of being able to capitalize on Demopoulos overextending and then getting the single leg, just getting in a clinch, getting them advantageous positions, getting those favorable positions on the ground when Demopoulos overextends, threaten with submissions. But then overall, I think that Amorim will do a good job in the first 2 rounds of really making, you know, just the best out of those transitions on the ground. I do think that there's going to be a little bit of a cardio issue, though, with Amorim, which we have seen in past fights. She does kind of fade out a little bit in the 3rd round, and that's something that I don't think Demopoulos will do. Demopoulos has very good cardio, and that's where I see Amorim taking the 29-28 decision, winning those first 2 rounds out of positional advantage, and then Vanessa Demopoulos getting that last round, just being able to, you know, put combinations together a bit better, just being a bit more aggressive in the exchanges when Amorim doesn't have as much stamina. But I think it'll be too little too late, and Amorim will be able to take it just really off those clutch wrestling exchanges. Moving up the card to Gabriel Santos versus Yizha. So both of these guys are very well rounded for the level that they are at. When we look at Yizha, definitely a grinder. He's very explosive, really like tries to smother you, get in those wrestling exchanges. He's got very good stamina. I mean, he fought Li Zhongyong, who is 100% the best fighter out of Korea, I think, that we've got at the moment, who obviously just lost to Haider Emil, but is very, very explosive, very talented. But this guy, Yizha, coming out of China, he's definitely a good prospect. He's very good. I mean, even against Lee, I honestly think he won that fight, to be honest. I think it was very controversial. Mark Smith didn't allow the fight to stay on the ground, which he should have after a foul. So Yizha got up kicked by Lee, and then Mark Smith reset the position on the feet where Lee had the advantageous position, and Yizha at that point was on top of him, which is where he needed the fight. And it just got reset in the wrong way. And honestly, I'm only bringing this particular point because he could have won that, and it could have been a completely different story for him if that error wasn't made, and Yizha would be in the UFC already. Now, obviously, this is his debut now, and I think he's a very good fighter, definitely, without a doubt. He's very good at finding advantageous positions on the ground, obviously smothering the opponent, and honestly, he's very, very good with submissions. He's 13-1 with submissions. He's 6-1 with KO TKOs. He's got a lot of experience, obviously not high level experience, but he's definitely obviously a viable finisher. But when we look at Santos, he's only lost to very, very good opposition. I mean, he's had a pretty tough run so far. He's fought like a bit of a murderer's row. I mean, he fought David Onama, who chinned him, and then he fought Lerone Murphy, which he did make fairly competitive, and Lerone Murphy undefeated, and he is going to be, honestly, I think Lerone Murphy can definitely be a top 5 fighter in that division. So yeah, it really emphasizes the point that these guys are definitely fighters to look out for, especially going through, obviously going through the UFC and trying to make a statement in this fight directly. Now, Gabriel Santos, I think he's better on the feet. He's definitely faster on the feet in terms of his strike speed. Yizha is faster in terms of level changing and getting into those takedowns and getting into those wrestling based positions. And that's where I think the relentless pressure and that really good cardio from Yizha is just really going to become an issue the longer that this fight goes on. And Yizha is very durable, so unless Santos can get a really good shot on him and take him out, I just don't feel like this is going to go Santos's way. And I really think that Yizha is going to be able to take this one by a decision win, just out of, getting the control. Often, honestly, he stays in just the neutral full guard position and just lands very good ground and pound. And I just do think the pressure from Yizha is going to get the better of this fight. Santos very good on the feet, and if he can keep it there, he's definitely got the advantage, but I don't see that happening with that pressure that Yizha can give in this fight. So I'm going to be taking Yizha by that decision win. Moving up the card, Felipe dos Santos versus Andrade Lima. Now, this is definitely one of the funner fights on the card, without a doubt. Definitely one of my favorite ones because, I mean, you go back to Dos Santos at UFC 293, he has a chin on him. He fought Manel Cap on UFC 293, without a doubt the best fight on that card. And in his last fight, I will say, he definitely robbed Altamirano in that fight, without a doubt. He should not have won that. But that being said, he's got something to prove, because the fans were booing the absolute shit out of him in that fight. So hopefully, he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder. Hopefully he really comes out and makes this a good fight. And stylistically, with Andrade Lima, it's a perfect matchup, because Andrade Lima, I will highly doubt that he is going to be taking Felipe dos Santos down. Felipe dos Santos is the Muay Thai based fighter here. Very fast kicks, very good in the clinch, makes it dirty. And he definitely has the better reach, and his physical advantage. He's got the reach there, but his output as well, I will say, is something that you really need to look out for. He's definitely consistent with his output if he's not getting taken down, which Lima is not going to do. But Andrade Lima, I think, is just more technically sound than him. He statistically lands at a better clip. He's definitely composed. He's got very good power as well. And Felipe dos Santos coming through and being aggressive and trying to get in those clinch exchanges, one of Lima's best weapons are his leg kicks. And that's where I think Andrade Lima can really forcefully take action in this fight. And plus, in his last fight against Raposo, he was definitely dirty. It was bad. I mean, he fouled so many times in that fight, but Lima looked huge. Just interesting to see how long Lima is going to actually be able to stay in this division for, because he is, when you look at him in terms of his muscle mass, he's not a small flyweight by any means. He's a big presence in the octagon in comparison to the other fighters that are in the flyweight division, and he has the power to go along with it as well. So ultimately, I think when it comes to just stylistically, obviously Dos Santos having that, you know, that dirty kind of style in terms of, you know, being able to mix it up with the clinch. I just think Lima's the better striker, and I don't see either of these guys, you know, taking each other down. Now, if Dos Santos gets it to the ground, he's got the advantage there. He trains with Charles Oliveira. He's 3-0 with submissions. He's definitely got that in his locker. But Andre Lima has very good takedown defense. He's shown that on the regional scene, the fights that he's had. And he definitely lands at a better clip as well. So I honestly think out of that accuracy and that power, his shots are just going to do a lot more damage. And I think he is going to be able to take the decision win here, unless he lands a very clean shot and takes Dos Santos out. But I've got to put respect on Dos Santos's name after that Manel Cap fight. Fantastic fight. But I honestly think that this is a dark horse fight of this fight card. It will be one of the best fights for sure. And moving on to our new feature prelim, we were supposed to have OSP versus Ryan Spann, which has been pushed to a later date, so we get Isaac Dulgarian versus Brendon Marotte. Now, I think this fight will have some, you know, some interesting moments in it, but the odds are what we need to look at in this fight. The odds are absolutely insane. They're just at the bottom of the screen there. It's honestly insane to see someone be this big a favor. I know Isaac Dulgarian has a lot of hype behind him. He is a very, very good wrestler, very, like, fairly decorated wrestler. But honestly, I'm not a very big fan of, you know, having the odds be this big, no matter who you are, you know, no matter how hyped a fighter is, like, over another fighter. I just think that no matter what, like, you see, like, this is a fight. You know, I just don't think it should be this widespread, because being a fight, you never know what can happen. You can be the best fighter of all time, you know, like, and it just takes one punch. You never actually know. And with Brendon Marotte, he does have the KO power there, but I'm not doing some insane prediction here. I think Dulgarian will absolutely destroy Marotte, absolutely manhandle him because of his wrestling pedigree. But that being said, though, with KO power, the fighter that is 5-1 with KOs in that sense, you still should not be that much. But anyway, with Dulgarian, very, very, very good wrestler, as I said, you know, very explosive. He's got very good top control, very good with his ground and pound. I think that's one of the big parts of his game that you really need to look out for, especially with his elbows. Absolutely destroys people with his elbows on the regional scene. I'd probably say he's kind of like a mini Armin Sarukian. He's got like obviously he's got the very good wrestling, but piss poor striking in comparison to Armin, and just piss poor striking realistically. I just don't think it's that fantastic. And that was really emphasized when he fought Christian Rodriguez, because Christian Rodriguez, obviously very defensively sound fighter, he was able to really stop Isaac Dulgarian's offensive wrestling threat. And then Dulgarian, when it came to that second and third round, his arms looked like they weighed 100 kilos each. He could not generate any power, and especially speed, onto his strikes. So that is something where obviously there is concern in terms of a hole in Isaac Dulgarian's game. But Brendon Marotte is not the fighter to obviously, you know, expose that. He's got some power, and, you know, he's made it to the UFC. He's got some power, even though a lot of signings are pretty questionable in the UFC, let's be honest here. But he's just going to get swallowed by Dulgarian's wrestling without a doubt, very easily. I mean, he's been taken down very easily against much lower level opposition on the regional scene. And, you know, they're just not even comparable to Dulgarian as a fighter, let alone wrestling pedigree in terms of takedowns. So I 100% see Dulgarian taking him straight down to the ground, getting into full mount, first round, TKO finish, quick work. Just, I think he'll make a mess of Brendon Marotte, honestly. But look, hopefully Brendon Marotte gets the upset, to be honest. I wouldn't even care if I lost this prediction. Like, anyone that has odds this different, you know, you're going for the other guy regardless. You know, like Cody Brundage versus bloody Bo Nickel. You know, if Cody Brundage knocked out Bo Nickel, that would have stolen UFC 300. I'm sorry, Max Holloway. But look, ultimately, Isaac Dulgarian, 100%, he will be taking this fight. Now, moving on to the main card, we have Chris Padilla versus Rongzhu. So, with Rongzhu, he is a finisher. Very good KO power, 15-0. He's got very good boxing and very accurate with that boxing style. Very good body shots as well. And he's got fairly good takedown defense as well, I will say that. He's very strong when it comes to, you know, getting the underhooks and making sure he stops the takedowns. But I'm emphasizing the boxing because he doesn't utilize kicks very much. And against a guy like Chris Padilla, that is without a doubt what you want to be doing, because Chris Padilla does not check leg kicks to save his life. Ever. Like, regional scene, I've watched a fair few of his fights on the regional scene, just does not feel like checking the legs. And I don't know what's up with that, but I mean, he's winning fights. I mean, he just, you know, he took out James Lontop in his last fight, who was on a 12-fight win streak. So I mean, you know, and I took Lontop in that fight. So you can't count Chris Padilla out without a doubt. And to emphasize that as well, Rongzhu is pretty susceptible to submissions. He's 6-4 with submissions. He's good with the takedown defense, but in terms of the submission defense, when it gets to the ground, that's where it is questionable. And with Padilla, he has fantastic timing on his takedowns. Very good with his double leg takedowns. And on the feet, with Rongzhu, you know, being 15-0, having great boxing and that KO threat, Chris Padilla, I will say, he has very good strike defense. He's very good at, you know, maintaining distance. He's got a good reach. He's got longer reach in this fight, and that's something that he does very well. He's very good at making sure that he can track back, you know, stay at range, stay out of the danger zone, but then also explode in for a double leg takedown very easily. So honestly, I think this really just comes down to whether Rongzhu can keep it on the feet and just capitalize on those striking opportunities when it comes to the boxing or not, because Padilla is very aggressive and offensive with those takedown attempts, but with that amazing timing on his double legs, it could honestly be a lot of trouble for Rongzhu if he gets him there. And that's the issue. You know, Rongzhu, if he is smart, he's going to be using those leg kicks to chop down Padilla's legs, to cut down the explosiveness of Padilla's entries, because that could easily allow Rongzhu to keep him, you know, static and then knock Padilla out without a doubt. But the fact that I haven't seen that in Rongzhu's game, I can't just say that he's automatically going to use it. So when it comes to Chris Padilla, honestly, I just don't think, even though his takedown defense is good, Padilla's timing is just very, very good. And I honestly think that without Rongzhu chopping those leg kicks, and I'm saying he's not, I think Padilla is going to do a very good job of maintaining distance, you know, getting out of the way of the shorter reach Rongzhu to then, you know, come back forward, get the takedown entries, get him to the ground, obviously secure that takedown, transition on the ground, because his transitions are very good, find a rear naked choke finish, submission, round one. Padilla is taking this as the underdog. Moving up the card, Trevor Peak versus Yanal Ashmouz. Now, this will be an absolutely insane striking battle if it stays there, and if one of these guys don't get knocked the fuck out, to be fair. But I will say, unfortunately for Peak, I do think that this is going to go the very, very similar way to the Charlie Campbell fight that he had in his literal last fight. Because if you look at Peak, he's got power, he's very durable as well, but he struggles to find his reads and really set up his power shots against guys that just have versatile striking, the ones that can, you know, switch stance well, that are very quick on the feet, which Ashmouz, without a doubt, is very quick on the feet. He's very durable as well. Ashmouz is extremely durable. He's got the KO power. He's very versatile with his strikes as well. He's got spinning kicks for days, and he just mixes his targets up very well. He does a lot of kicks to like a lot of leg kicks, does spinning body kicks, he does like obviously head kicks as well, and he just has very decent boxing too. So he's very well rounded in terms of his striking arsenal. But I will say on the back foot, he's not great, and he does rely on his durability a lot. But that being said as well, he does have very good head movement. So it is kind of hard to see with Ashmouz because his one loss that he had, his arm was destroyed. His arm was absolutely destroyed, and that's the issue in terms of, like, he didn't even get finished, and he had one arm, and he was just doing a very good job of making sure that his head was out of the way, constantly circling out. Now, him with two arms, it's, you know, his defense is going to be a lot better. Let's be honest here. He's not going to be relying on that durability as much. And that was against Chris Duncan. And Chris Duncan is a very, very clean boxer. Very clean boxer. Didn't get taken out by him. And look, both of these guys are very durable. And there is a chance that Peak could 100% just main character storyline, just take Ashmouz the fuck out. He 100%. He just swings crazy shots, has very interesting striking styles in terms of, like, when he's in flurries, he uses like hammer fists and everything as well. So you don't always know where the strikes are coming. So that's where, when Trevor Peak has you against the cage, it's an issue. But I just think with Ashmouz's striking arsenal, especially, you know, with his like spinning kicks and, you know, obviously targeting the body and the legs as well, I think that will 100% be paying dividends later into the fight against a guy like Trevor Peak, who really needs the gas. He needs the oxygen to get those power shots off. But I honestly think that Ashmouz is really going to, you know, dismantle the legs, dismantle the body very early on. Just play a smart striking game with that striking arsenal he does have, frustrate Trevor Peak, and obviously get that decision win that you see there on the screen. And moving up the card, Matt Schnell versus Cody Durden, battle for the top 15. Now, Matt Schnell's had it pretty rough. He got absolutely annihilated by Steve Erceg in his last fight, but you got to give credit to him. You know, he's had amazing longevity considering obviously being a flyweight, honestly, not really a short flyweight either. So the cuts would be pretty interesting, I would say, for him, especially as the older he gets. You know, he's 34 now, so it's going to be interesting to see. But obviously, emphasizing that age, I do think that his chin is gone. You know, he's been in the UFC for 9 years. He's taken a lot of damage. And looking at Cody Durden in his last fight in comparison, Cody Durden looked fantastic in his last fight against Bruno Silva. Obviously, before he got chinned by Bruno Silva in his first KO loss. But I think that's just going to make Durden more, you know, just more hungry to get a win back. And obviously emphasizing the point of getting into the top 15. You know, there's actual proper reward here for him. And, you know, I don't know how Bruno Silva actually pulled that out of his ass. As a side note, he was piecing Bruno Silva up, and Bruno Silva did a fantastic job of somehow knocking Cody Durden out. But, you know, that's just more to credit to Durden and his striking. And if we get a striking-oriented Durden in this fight, then I think he chins Matt Schnell. And I'm pretty confident in that because, you know, his combinations were looking fantastic compared to his last fights that he's had on the feet. He's just really tying his game together. Obviously, he's a fantastic wrestler, and his striking, you know, is really coming through now. And look, when we look at Matt Schnell, I don't see Matt Schnell really getting submitted, or I don't see Cody Durden honestly getting submitted. I know that Cody Durden is 5-4 with submissions, so he is susceptible. But in terms of the pedigree of who he's lost to, I mean, he's lost to Ulanbekov, he's lost to Makayev, and he's lost to like Jimmy Flick against them in terms of submission. So like they're a different pedigree of submission artists. They're all very good. You know, Jimmy Flick is pretty dog shit on the feet, but he is a wizard on the ground. So you have to really, you know, look into those numbers in terms of, yeah, he's 5-4 with submissions. He could easily get submitted, but it depends on the caliber of opposition. So I don't see Matt Schnell being on the level. Matt Schnell just isn't on the level of those guys, realistically. It just in terms of the submission game, exactly. Now, Durden coming out as that striking-oriented fighter and utilizing that wrestling pedigree as well to outposition Matt Schnell, similar to like Vanessa Demopoulos and against Amorim. I think Amorim, you know, will obviously outposition Demopoulos, and I think that Cody Durden will do the exact same thing to Matt Schnell through the first and second rounds of this fight. But emphasizing the fact that Cody Durden is hungry after that last fight. His striking's looking a lot better, and Matt Schnell his chin's gone, and he's just on the decline now. I think we are going to get a Durden KO TKO in the third round. I can definitely argue a decision win here without a doubt. You know, Matt Schnell plays it defensively safe and Cody Durden just runs all over him with the wrestling. Definitely possible, but I think a hungry Durden comes out and I think he takes out Matt Schnell. Now moving up the card, Carl Nelson versus Steve Garcia. Steve Garcia, along with like Gene Silva, like 100% cementing themselves as like the featherweight boogeymen outside those rankings. 100%. Steve Garcia, he's taking this by a KO TKO finish. I'm pretty confident in this one. He has just got so much power in his hands. He has been pretty difficult to get down to the ground. I mean, you see Melky Costa, he couldn't do it. He's not doing it. I just don't see Carl Nelson doing it. Carl Nelson's a good, well-rounded fighter. I will say he's pretty, you know, he's fairly durable. I'll say that. He's gritty. You know, he's very fast-paced. But being aggressive, like Carl Nelson being obviously aggressive, I just don't see that playing into the game of Garcia well at all. And you know, if Carl Nelson can find a way to get Steve Garcia to the ground, like there's a clear, obvious advantage there for him because Garcia's ground game is completely unknown in terms of offense. He's only been submitted once. He's never submitted anyone. But Garcia is on some form. He is on some serious form at the moment. He is going to be getting into the top 15 at some point. I'm pretty confident if he keeps on this run. And being such a physical presence as well, he's got the reach advantage. He's got the height advantage. He's just very big featherweight, very just tanky featherweight. And that power translation being 13-1 there, I just think it's a matter of time before Garcia knocks out Carl Nelson in a pretty gritty exchange. And in Garcia fashion, it's gonna be brutal. Now moving on to our co-main event, Jessica Andrade versus Natalia Silva. Now looking at Andrade, got to give credit to her. You know, she is without a doubt one of the most active women's UFC fighters, without a doubt. You know, obviously going through strawweight and flyweight simultaneously, just like Amanda Hebas. She's definitely a very much needed presence in the women's MMA game. But coming up to flyweight and fighting arguably the best contender outside the top 5 is just not going to be serving her well. You know, Andrade is obviously powerful. She's got power in her hands, but her size is just a very big issue, you know, and it's a very big issue for her against most flyweights. But more so than that, she's, you know, fighting Natalia Silva, who has some of the best striking in that division and is bigger than her in both the reach and the height. And that's just going to be putting Jessica Andrade in a world of trouble, without a doubt, because Andrade just, you know, she's 10-5 with KOs now. You know, she's been chinny. Yan Jianan absolutely flatlined her. And Andrade is, look, she's very good when she's on the front foot, you know, very good at, you know, applying pressure and being able to cut off the cage and land some bombs. And that's her best opportunity to win, without a doubt. But Silva is just very, very good on the outside. She manages her distance very well and is one of the most accurate fighters in terms of her striking in that whole division by a mile. Her striking is very, very good. I'll say the ground game is fairly even between the two, obviously emphasizing Andrade's experience to Natalia Silva against top competition, and her also being pretty compact as well. But honestly, the movement and speed of Natalia Silva is just going to make it a nightmare for Jessica Andrade to get this fight to the ground. Unless Andrade obviously hurts her, but I just think that's doubtful because Natalia Silva, obviously having the speed when it comes to her movement, she not only has that, she has the Taekwondo base, which is a fantastic base to have to fight at range. She does a very good job with, like, you know, her front legs, just using kicks to manage the distance, and she's just lengthy in general. She uses very good jabs as well, and that's just a nightmare for Jessica Andrade being tiny. And look, longer wrestlers, like, you know, bigger, longer wrestlers like Jasuda Vicious couldn't even properly get Natalia Silva down. And that's with a physical presence. Jessica Andrade does not have that physical presence, and she doesn't have that superior actual wrestling pedigree either. So I honestly see Natalia Silva just being able to tear Andrade apart from range using the kicks, and I think that she will drop her. And I think she'll find the submission win in round 2. And with that name on her record, honestly, you know, with a finish as well, she is without a doubt just breaking straight into that top 5. And I think she'll be getting a title shot sooner rather than later. And moving on to the main event, Gilbert Burns versus Sean Brady. Now, Sean Brady's interesting. He's decent on the feet. He's got a very nice lead left hook, and he's very good at switching stances, so he can keep fighters guessing. He did that to Bilal through the first round of their fight, and he's done it obviously with lower level opposition as well. But it's going to be interesting to see how he comes back from that loss. You know, obviously, I know he fought Kelvin Gastelum, and he absolutely ragdolled Kelvin Gastelum, and his wrestling and his transitional awareness, which is obviously shown in that fight, is his best attribute by a country mile. But I feel like the odds are overemphasized for him in this fight because of that fight. And that's because Gilbert Burns is not going to be ragdolled like Kelvin Gastelum. No chance. Gilbert Burns is extremely good on the ground. Even though he's 38 years old, there's a reason why he's 9-0 with submissions, and not many fighters can out-control him on the ground. Only one I've really seen is Kamaru Usman, and that's Kamaru Usman. Now, Burns, overall, he just has like his worlds of difference compared to, you know, any of the opposition that Sean Brady has fought in terms of the ground game. And also, we need to look at the fact that when it comes to fighter experience, Gilbert Burns is way more experienced. He's fought the best of the best in that bloody division, without a doubt. He is a fan favorite for a obvious reason. Thank Christ for that Gilbert Burns versus Hamza Chimaev fight. It was fantastic. But also when it comes to his 5-round experience, you know, he's consistently shown that he can fight 5 rounds. You know, he's done it, I believe he's done it twice, but against Bilal Muhammad, I think that's what we really need to look at with Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns got injured in the first round of that fight against Bilal Muhammad and kept a very, very, very good pace against Bilal. And Bilal is a guy that has borderline Marab level gas tank. He does not gas out, and Gilbert Burns, being injured, being older as well, and still being able to fight through like that after getting injured in the first round, it was one of his arms, I think it was his shoulder. He just couldn't use his arm at all. He could barely even throw it. And also posting as well. So like there was no control time for Bilal Muhammad in that fight either. And, you know, that's just credit to Gilbert Burns. You know, even being injured, he just, you know, he was able to push through and, you know, didn't get finished, didn't get taken down, nothing. He was doing a very good job in that fight. And looking at that in comparison to Sean Brady and all the other fights that he's had, I think people are really, really counting Gilbert Burns out. You know, Sean Brady has never fought 5 rounds. He's went to a 4th round and he finished the guy on the regional scene. I believe it was the regional scene. But we just don't know how good Sean Brady's gas tank is. And realistically, if we've got Burns with the 5-round experience and Sean Brady consistently just trying to wrestle the whole entire time, Burns can out-transition him for sure. I think he can get out of those dangerous positions and not be controlled. And also, when we look at that in terms of cancelling out on the ground, Gilbert Burns versus Sean Brady on the feet, that's what we need to look at. And from what we've seen, even though Gilbert Burns is 38 years old, the striking caliber is not the same. The striking caliber of Gilbert Burns is a lot better. He's got more power. He strings combinations better as well. And that's against better competition. You know, we have to tie all of this to better competition, and Burns destroys Brady in terms of that. Now, Brady is obviously in his prime age range. He's 31. And look, Brady, if he's getting pressured backwards, he is in trouble. Because Bilal Muhammad did that exact thing and took him out. Now, Gilbert Burns has something he wants. He has the Kamaru Usman rematch. He really wants that fight, and if he has that goal, and he's fought these other better opposition fighters, I don't see why he can't get this done. He should. I think this could be a pick'em, possibly, realistically. I honestly don't even think Burns should be the underdog in this fight. I think people are just really harshly judging this, for one, off Gilbert Burns' age, and two, off of Sean Brady's control time over Kelvin Gastelum. And I think that Gilbert Burns, with that point to prove, to, you know, obviously get back and try and have that Kamaru Usman rematch, which I think he will retire on. I think that's why he wants it, and that's a good fight to go out on. I think with that goal in mind, and obviously knowing that he has that experience in his locker, I think Gilbert Burns is going to be extremely confident. I think he's going to push forward. I think he's going to be the aggressor. And I think that he is going to be able to take out Sean Brady on the feet. I think he's going to be able to take him out in the second or third round of this fight. And even in comparison, when it comes to the striking, you look at Gilbert Burns in his last fight against JDM. JDM is one of the most technical boxers in that division by a country mile, and Gilbert Burns was holding his own on the feet. And honestly, if the fight went any longer, if the fight went to a decision, Gilbert Burns would have won the decision against JDM until JDM just decapitated him with the knee. So it's really, I think Gilbert Burns is just being so discredited in this fight. And I really hope he proves me right. But also, just for him, I really hope, with what he has done for all the fans in terms of the fights that he has taken and the shows that he has put on, I hope he wins this fight, gets Kamaru Usman, possibly wins, and then gets that retirement. Now, moving on to the fight card awards, kicking it off with fight of the night, I am giving it to Peak versus Ashmouz. And I think this one's pretty clear for fight of the night, let's be honest. I mean, both of these guys, very durable, heavy strikers. You know, Ashmouz has a very good striking arsenal. Trevor Peak has power for days. You put those together with that durability, it's pretty hard not to give this fight of the night, whichever way it goes. And moving on to performance of the night, I'm giving it to Natalia Silva. I think she is a fantastic fighter. A fighter that, you know, not only the flyweight division needs, women's MMA needs. She is a very, very good finisher. Very good finisher. The Silvas are very good. Karine and Natalia. Watch out for both of these two. They are very, very good in that flyweight division. And Natalia Silva, honestly, I think that this is just a golden opportunity for her. You know, if she can take out Jessica Andrade, buy a finish, get that name on her record, she is really going to be able to push through to get that title shot. And someone with that Taekwondo style, that striking accuracy, is what we want to see, especially in women's MMA. Now, moving on to the fighter to watch, this one was interesting for me. And I'm actually going to be giving it to the underdog pick that I had. And I think it's going to be Chris Padilla. I think definitely look out for this guy because he's got a very good mix of having, you know, a very versatile submission game on the ground. But he's also lengthy, very lengthy, and, you know, keeps a good distance as well. So he's very, and his timing on his takedowns is incredible. He's 28 years old now. So if you give him another 4 to 5 years, really sharpens up that striking because he's already got the wrestling, he's got the takedowns down pat, submission, his transitions on the ground, submission transitions, beautiful. I think if he really sharpens that striking up and checks some fucking leg kicks, I think he will be great. I think he will actually be a very, very talented fighter and will go a ways in the UFC, to be honest. And honestly, I think that as the underdog pick, I'm pretty confident, and I hope he can win this fight. And moving on to finish of the night, Steve Garcia. I'm giving it to Steve Garcia. I just think he is a murderer, honestly, in that division. I think that if he keeps on this run, and which I think he'll get it done in this one, obviously, but if he keeps on these KO finishes and gets this streak going as a finish streak, they are going to shove him right into that top 15 because he will 100% be getting sales going. You know, people see Steve Garcia. He's a very big, you know, just dominant figure when it comes to, you know, being in the octagon, very, you know, just a very big presence, you know, being 6 foot, having the 73-inch reach. I see him honestly, just obviously not only with this fight, taking out his opposition, I see him really making a run and he's got that momentum there. So definitely keep an eye out for this guy on this card because it will 100% deliver. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more MMA based content, definitely check out my video on the most hyped matchups that I want to see in each division. I've just left it on the screen for you, and if you can please show support, it really goes a long way for the channel. Please like, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.